Hello lovelies, I'm the Fragnostic, and tonight on The Holy Truth we're having a glass of warm milk, turning on the mobile night light, and then gently tucking in the steaks, the sausages and the pork chops before backing out of the room slowly, cooing, "Good night, butcher." There we go, the strangest introduction I have ever done. Oh no, Mr. Baby Monitor. Word of advice to aspiring parents out there: with baby monitors, the cheaper the better. Believe you me, the more expensive they get, the more sensitive they are. So unless you want to be woken up by what sounds like the blaring death cry of a robot cockerel because somebody 2 streets away flushed their toilet or there was some minor seismic activity somewhere in the Indian Ocean, stick to the budget range. Trust me. Babies are designed to wake you up without external aids. It's God punishing you for having them. Goodnight Butcher is an arcade-style horror game with an isolated, heart-pounding atmosphere which shifts seamlessly between running your butchery and running for your life, which, for once, is really about as accurate a description as you're going to get on a store page. You start off by learning the basics of turning skinless animal corpses into small, less horrifying pieces of skinless animal corpses, so that customers will give you their money rather than blame for their inescapable nightmares. Using the map in the top left to navigate your way around the storefront and its back rooms, you'll need to grab a carcass from the freezer, drag it over to the other side of the shop, and fling it through the buzzsaw a couple of times until you got yourself a good lump of cow ass. And that's its stomach or its anus or something. Grab a couple of meters of that shit, lovely. Once that's done, you can move around to the other rooms marked on your map to mash your new body bits into burgers, sausages, and whatever else before presenting them for display on the front counter. But wait! Is something terribly awry here? Do butchers usually refer to their produce as tributes, or work from archaic scrawlings found in nameless occultist tomes? I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe it's just a coincidence that the lights keep dying, forcing me to head all the way to the back of the shop to reset the generator. Let's just grab another carcass and go about our business. Who am I to judge these brave men and women who endanger their lives preparing their morning displays while facing down the tormented ghosts of murdered cattle? Or the unbridled rage of the vent people? Or, I don't even know what this is, the fucking devil itself? It's like the PETA got hold of the fucking Necronomicon. So yeah, you've pretty much got the gist of Goodnight Butcher here. You want to make a living, the floating godless abominations want you out of town. It's pretty simple work to avoid your aggressors. You can out-sprint the ghost cows with ease, and so long as you steer clear of the telltale blood trails by the vent, these shifty little bastards won't be able to grab at you. The only 2 factors that come close to complicating matters, initially at least, are that if you sprint, you'll automatically drop the carcass you're carrying, which isn't too bad, as you can go right back and pick it up off the floor because, you know, who's watching, and the slightly more irritating random power outages. You don't have to go back to the generator to turn them on every single time, seeing as they only affect a couple of rooms to begin with, but the longer you leave it, the more rooms will be swallowed by the darkness, making it much harder to avoid the angry dead that are stalking you. Another mild migraine in the making comes by way of the bones that begin to litter your inventory as you carve up more and more meats. You can't just drop this useless skeletal garbage on the floor. Oh no, what do you think we are? Attempting to flee in blind panic from ghastly terror spectres? No, you have to go and dispose of them in the proper machine at the back of the shop. Although it's just across the way from the generator, so it's usually prudent to knock both of those jobs out in one trip. Goodnight Butcher's story mode has 3 levels, and it would be fair to say that 2 of them are remarkably easy enough to be considered little more than light training for the 3rd and final night of hell. Calling it a story mode is pretty fucking generous by any stretch of the imagination anyway, as the only plot that holds the game together takes form in 3 newspaper articles that you get to see at the end of each level. Guess what? He was chopping up people all along! Woo! You know, if I had a dick for every time I predicted a twist in a game plot, I wouldn't be able to sneeze without accidentally raping something. The third and final stage takes everything you've learned so far, locks it in the trunk along with its difficulty curve, and then drives off stinking of whiskey to Dead Man's Crook. Now, aside from the enemy count and power outages practically quadrupling, you have locked doors to contend with that can only be opened from a specific side. The location of these doors changes every time you start the stage, so while you might have an easy run from the meat freezer to the saw room in one playthrough, you might have to take a 6-room detour the next time. Stacking the odds up even higher is the fact that because your tribute quota is now cinched at Sheriff of Nottingham-esque levels, your cleaver will quickly go dull, so you'll have to take yet another diversion to track down the cleaver sharpening machine. Somebody made the most out of all this fucking space, didn't they? Some bastard really didn't want those kids to have their new orphanage. Nah, sorry, I need all these rooms. What, this one? This is me knife sharpening room. Look at the size of this bloody queue. What's it for, the butchers or Space fucking Mountain? Although it's a fun if incredibly basic experience, Goodnight Butcher could easily have experimented with its formula over a few more levels to make it feel like more of a marketable product and less of a browser game. There's a nightmare mode to back up the campaign, which really doesn't amount to anything better than a hardcore time attack option, and not a word else on the matter either way. You know, this would have been a pretty ideal candidate for early access, but as it stands, you'll wring everything you need to out of Goodnight Butcher in about 30 minutes, and feel cheated if you paid out anything over $1. Well, I'll tell you what isn't disappointing. I managed to get through this entire review without insulting vegetarians. Then again, vegetarianism has Paul McCartney to do that for him.
MeatFreeMondays.com, pledge.meatfreemondays.com. You can do it right now, please.
Paul McCartney, everyone. The man that said if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everyone would be vegetarian. Maybe, Paul, but only if they were trespassing.